Good evening. See how bright we are up here? So I want to call to order the April 2nd meeting of the Santa Barbara Unified District Board. Mr. Matsuoka, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Buenas noches, tenemos interpretación al español disponible si alguien la necesita. Gracias.
Also, headsets for the hearing impaired are available. Please indicate if you should need a headset. I will now announce the closed section action that was taken in closed session. Item B1, the board voted in closed session to approve inter-district transfer appeals for 2019-2020 school year in the case of T1 201920, T2 201920, T3 201920, T4 2019. Motion was made by Ms. Ford, second by Dr. Reed. 0. Also, the board voted in closed session to approve OH case number 201902-0373 in the amount of $16,000. The motion was made by Dr. Reed, seconded by Ms. Ford. The vote was 5-0. On item B3, the board voted in closed session to appoint Tiffany Carson as CTE coordinator. Motion made by Dr. Reed, seconded by Ms. Capps. The vote was 5-0. Board voted in closed session to appoint Stephanie Henderson as assistant principal at Dos Pueblos High. Motion made by Ms. Ford, seconded by Dr. Reed. Vote 5-0. Board voted in closed session to appoint Dave Holdren, Dare Holdren as assistant principal at Dos Pueblos High. The motion was made by Dr. Reed, seconded by Ms. Munoz. The vote was 5-0. And last, the board voted in closed session for the reappointment of Christine Gagier as principal of Washington School. The motion was made by Ms. Capps, seconded by Ms. Ford. The vote was 5-0. That concludes our closed session action. Next, we'll have the superintendent report.
So at your last public meeting, you made several management appointments, and so tonight you get to meet the people behind those decisions. The first one, you probably know Ms. Foster. So Jennifer Foster has been appointed the new principal of La Colina Junior High. And so welcome, Jennifer, and invite you to come share some comments.
Good evening. A little short here. Good evening, board members, Superintendent Matsuoka, and district administration, members of the community. I'm so excited. I don't think it's really set in that I get to be the principal at La Colina Junior High School. It's truly an honor. It's a goal that I've had, and I'm just really so thankful for the opportunity. Thank you for having the confidence in me to take on this position and continue the great work that we're doing at La Colina with our outstanding teaching staff, our wonderful students, our awesome parent community. I'm just so very thankful for the opportunity. I'm really excited about the things we're doing, and now that it's setting in, the wheels are kind of starting to turn about like these are some of the things we're going to get to do together. So I'm just very, very excited. I know that I have really big shoes to fill, and it'll be different, but I'm really deeply appreciative of the mentoring that I've received from David Ortiz and really having the opportunity to learn about the La Colina culture and system that is so ingrained in the school and is so much a part of what will allow us to, propel us forward as we start this new chapter. So Also wanted to just mention that I'm really fortunate for all the mentors and the amazing educators that I've had the opportunity to work with, not only here in Santa Barbara, but also in the Campbell District where I started my career when I was barely out of education myself, barely older than the seniors I was teaching in government and economics. I also want to appreciate my first teachers. They're here tonight, my mom, Nancy, and my dad, Mike. They... both of whom were longtime public school educators who really instilled in my brother and I the values of distinguishing yourself through hard work, persistence, and the importance of being a good teammate. My husband, Michael, my three children teach me every day, and probably being a mom has helped me develop the greatest perspective of all in my work as well. Thank you for always supporting and encouraging me. Really appreciate you guys being here tonight, too. We're going to do great things at La Colina, and I really thank you so very much for the opportunity.
Our second introduction tonight is Dr. Kip Glazer, and she has been appointed as the principal of San Marcos High School. She's coming to us from La Cañada High School, which for those of you who may not know is near Pasadena and Eagle Rock area. So welcome, Kip, and we'll invite you to make some comments to the school board.
Thank you. I want to tell you a little story. When I was 4, my uncle gave me this book, had all kinds of flags, right? There was the first conscious moment that I realized that I lived in a world that was bigger than my little neighborhood. And it was bigger than Seoul, Korea, where I was born and grew up. And so I was looking at these pictures. I don't think I have ever even recognized what the words meant below it. So that night, my dad came home, and I ran to my dad and said, "Dad, did you know that there are over 132 places in the world?" And he goes, "Of course." I said, "Okay, which one is number 1? And he said, "Of course, the United States." I said, "Well, what's South Korea? What's the number?" And he said, "Pretty much at the bottom." So I asked him, I said, "Well, what are we doing here then? Can't we go to the number 1 country in the world?" And he said, "Little girl, you think you can make it, go right ahead and do it." And I don't think he ever understood what he did to me. Like, he dared me to go become a United States citizen. So always in the back of my mind that I was going to go to the number 1 country in the world because supposedly, I mean, I didn't know, they're number 1, right? They're the best. So when I was 23 years old, on September 15th, 1993, and I was telling this story at San Marcos High School this afternoon, 2:07 in the afternoon, I landed at LAX and I started a journey of becoming the American citizen. So they also asked me, "What about your 2 children who are in the United States Army?" And I said, "I never pushed it because believe me, I ran away from a tiger mom and I have no intention of becoming one." But I don't think many people believe me when I tell them that because my oldest graduated from West Point and he's now an Army officer, and my younger one is a sophomore at West Point. I tell you this story because I've always believed that everybody can have a dream, right, and work hard enough that this country would give you that opportunity. So I stand here before you because I believe in that for myself and for the students and staff that I'll be leading next year. And I really want to thank you for giving me this opportunity. 25 years ago when I arrived at Santa Barbara, I didn't even speak English. Now I stand before you, given this charge to lead this great school that I got to be on and meet the staff this afternoon. So I cannot express in words what this means to me, but I can promise you I'll do my very best to be the best principal you have ever seen at San Marcos High School. So thank you.
Before we move on to a couple other superintendent comments, I'd just invite the board if you wanted to share any comments.
Any comments, board?
Ms. Ford?
Thank you so much. I'm so excited by the new leadership that I'm seeing coming into the district. It makes me so proud, not only to know that we found someone who's amazing from out of town, but also that we grew our own. And I'm very excited. And I have to say, some of you know, I've known Dave Ortiz since he was like 10 years old. And I don't even think he would go unless he thought he could. And so it's a great testament to you, Jennifer, that he can go. I also just wanted to say that I know we're all so sad about the death that we suffered at Santa Barbara Charter School over the weekend, and I was lucky enough just a couple weeks ago to go to the Brighter Futures fundraiser that they hold there, and it's particularly deep and sad for me to recognize the impact that a death has at a school, and those of us who are educators know it can really rock a school. And particularly at this school, which is small and intimate, focused on parent involvement, focused on the whole child, in particular, not only academics, but the arts and project-based learning, but also just the fact that shared leadership is an important value there, and so I know you join me in your sadness there. I also was so lucky to be invited by Goleta Valley Junior High School teacher Shannon Aiken Hamilton to join her class at the Jewish Federation recently for a field trip to learn about the Holocaust and also to meet a Holocaust victim. And it was a riveting experience. But most of all, what I was so proud of was how respectful and interested and curious the students were. Nothing could be better to a board member. Thank you.
Additional comments from the board? Dr. Reed?
I just want to say it's exciting to see the new leadership and to welcome you. It's it just makes my heart sing, and just knowing that we've got our children in such capable hands. And I know that we are saddened by the passing of Ms. Kohler, and I know Superintendent Matsuoka is going to speak to that, but it's sad to have a passing of a life that had made such change and such passion and support of such so many children, and so we need to also acknowledge that as well. But in the happiness, though, of everyone here, I just want to again congratulate you for being a part of the district.
And I would just add to that and echo certainly the sentiments of my fellow women board members. Our mission that we will soon get up there differently as we prepare our students for a world that is yet to be created. How exciting it is to have two new leaders stepping into that world. So again, thank you and congratulations for the work that you've done. And we look forward to what will be done. So thank you.
So as has been mentioned, the community learned the news of Marcy Kohler, who passed away on Saturday, I believe, or Sunday. I think I met Marcy my first year here. She was a parent at, I believe it was San Marcos High School. And I just remember it was a good conversation. It was a long time ago, but to hear that news, it's hard. It's hard for a community. It's hard for a school. As Ms. Ford said, it's Santa Barbara Charter School. It's a very small, tight-knit community. So, our thoughts and prayers go out to that community and really the whole Santa Barbara, because we are one place. So, would you please join us in a moment of silence honoring Marcy Kohler. Thank you. And I have one more superintendent comment to make. Tonight is the last board meeting for our public information officer, Lauren Bianchi-Clement. Lauren is moving on to, I forget the name of that organization. So it's a big long, and devoted to issues around mostly transportation. And Lauren is stepping into a blend of passions that she has, which is communication, but especially public policy. We have benefited tremendously by her 2 years here. She's upgraded our communication systems skills. She leaves behind a whole bunch of templates for us. But I did learn that her love for policy is deep inside of her. So when she shared the news, I said, congratulations. And, we're going to miss her tremendously. But congratulations to you. Thank you for your service to us as a district through some crazy times. We have communicated a lot in the last 2 years, so we wish you well. And she's right up the street, so we'll be able to stay in touch with her. So thank you for your service, Lauren, and congratulations.
Board comments or correspondence? Ms. Capps?
I wanted to thank Lauren for her service. As a fellow communications person, you are just a joy to work with, so professional. I think your high mark with us and your tenure here was during which you just jumped in and kept us all informed and were so integral in that recovery effort. All of those briefings at San Marcos High School, Coombra, excuse me. But just want to thank you, and I know you'll do great things for the county, and I'm proud that you're going to stay in public service. Thanks.
Additional comments? Dr. Reed?
I can't not say so. Ditto. And so we're going to miss you. But I know you'll be successful where you go. And the legacy that you left here and the framework is going to be so important for the next person. So thank you for all that you've done.
Thank you, Lauren, as well. I'd like to just, point out that April is the month of the young child and just bring issue and awareness to child abuse. And so I'm wearing blue. You'll see blue throughout the city as a representation of that. And then you may see pinwheels that are throughout the county as well. And what each pinwheel represents is 1 in 5 children that is being suspected of being abused. So we want to keep them in our thoughts and our awareness and how do we do things in terms of that. So if you see a lot of blue, it's making sure that we're honoring our children and being aware of that. So thank you. Do we have any public comments? None so far. All right. Next, we'll move to our consent agenda item. Are there any items that the board members would like to pull? Thank you. Yeah. Yes. I want to pull item 17 and then also item 20. Are there additional items that need to be pulled? Okay. So, and it's really just a quick conversation. I know that we can take a vote, but just to be clear, item 20 we would actually pull for a separate cause of action. So on 17, I had talked to Ms. Jate, and I just wanted to have some clarity on what really it means a committee removal process. What does that mean as opposed to what someone may assume it's going to mean? So if you could just expand on that, Ms. Jate, thank you.
Surely, thank you. The Citizen Bond Oversight Committee has bylaws, and the bylaws state that if a member does not come to, I think it's 2 or 3 meetings in a row, they are discharged from their work on our oversight committee. The board, the members voted to, not voted because we didn't have a quorum, but they agreed that we should remove this person because we want someone there, and so we'll go out and fill the position.
Has there been communication with that member?
Yes, we've tried to email them, call him, but with no response.
Thank you.
He's busy.
Thank you. Okay. So hearing no additional items to be pulled, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item 20?
So moved.
Dr. Reed, second?
Second.
Ms. Ford, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. And now we can take action on item 20 of the consent agenda, accepting of donation for April 2nd, 2019. Do I hear a motion to approve the acceptance of donations?
So moved with gratitude.
Thank you. Ms. Kapp, second?
Second.
Dr. Reed, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. All right. Did that really move us to? That really moved us to the action agenda. Okay. Provisional intern permit, Dr. Becchio.
Thank you. Good evening, board members. Tonight I have 3 individuals we need to send a request to CTC for a provisional internship credential. And each of these, are currently serving on long-term sub permits. Those will expire. And so we do need to have board action in order for us to carry forward with the request to CTC.
Board, do you have any Ms. Ford?
Thanks. I'm just wondering how long the provisional credential is good for, and are they each separate? Because there was less that we learned about the third person, just in terms of background.
Your second question, are they each separate? You mean are each of the candidates getting a separate credential, or
Are they all considered in different and separate ways?
by the
Or do you
CTC?
use the same criteria?
Well, they do have to meet, their coursework has to comply with the minimum units in that subject area, and that allows them to be eligible for a provisional internship credential.
Okay.
As far as the second question regarding the length of a provisional internship credential, I'm actually not too sure about the length of that. I can send you an email and get back to you. I want to say it's a year, but I have to double check on that to get you the right answer. Is it a year? Yeah.
No, we have a credential expert.
Provisionally, right, so that they
Yeah.
have some
Yep.
expectations of things they have to do.
Yeah, unless Dr. Reed's sure that I can double check and get back to you via email and let you know that it is a term of a year. Okay.
No further comment or questions. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. E2, approval of resolution 2019-42, approving the guaranteed maximum price, authorizing the contractor to proceed with construction and adopting plans and specifications for San Marcos High School and Dos Pueblos School baseball backstop replacement project. Mr. Vizzolini.
Good evening, board. Good evening, Superintendent Matsuoka. As you noted probably in the narrative, this project kind of got blown up. So I wanted to give the board an opportunity to ask any questions about it. But essentially, we went from improving backstops for safety reasons to keep stray balls from landing in the pool at Dos Pueblos and in the stands at San Marcos. DSA got us. So for instance, the dugouts at Dos Pueblos, you have to step down into them. So, and they made us upgrade them. They made us put a shade structure over it for the new concrete pad we had to put for the coach that could be in a wheelchair. We had to provide access to every part of the field to do that. So at San Marcos, we had to create a sidewalk and a parking area and allow access from the access road off of Turnpike. So it's an unfortunate event, but I don't know what our options are: to do nothing or to do what's right and make sure we keep the kids safe. So unfortunately, it's about a double dip on as far as the cost goes. We'll take it out of program contingency, and we're here to seek your approval and answer any questions.
Any comments or questions? None? Do I hear a motion to approve? So moved. Do I hear a second?
I second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Pizzolini. Okay. E3, approval of lease agreement with Apple Inc. for student iPads. Mr. Rickman.
Good evening, board members. The details and background of this item are in the narrative that was in Novus. I'm just here to answer questions that you may have.
Board members, any additional questions? Ms. Capps?
Well, I communicated with Mr. Rickman about this, so maybe you can just summarize for the benefit of the board, just about I had a question about just sort of how you balance keeping iPads up to date so that students aren't using old devices, but you also don't want to be, you want to be conscious of cost and also sustainability. So you provided a good answer. I just thought maybe you could share that with the board.
Yeah, what I shared with Ms. Capps is that our goal is always to balance. It has always been to balance an aggressive refresh cycle with fiscal responsibility. there's nothing worse than depending on technology and have it be antiquated, especially when you're using it daily. I feel that way for not only our students, but our teachers. We need to treat people like professionals, and we need to make sure that our students are using technology that's up to date. Is just critical in order to have a good experience, a good learning experience, and for teachers to have a good teaching experience. And we want to do it in a way that, like I said, that in my email to Ms. Capps, that allows us to continue the program for as long as we can.
Any comments? Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Ms. Ford, second. Ms. Munoz, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Well, that quickly moves us to F. I don't think there's a break that's needed, right? But I want to make sure okay. So we're moving to the report and discussion agenda on implicit bias.
Well, we might want to take a break because I told Dr. Saad to arrive at 7 p.m. and she's not quite here yet.
Okay.
So, yeah, why don't we take a short break?
Sure.
She'll be here any minute.
Okay.
Oh, there she is. Still want to take a break, or should we just roll? Okay, let's roll. Dr. Saad, we are ahead of schedule. Come on up.
Yes.
I'll offer some opening comments. So as we turn on the projector again, let me provide an introduction to this topic and to our two co-presenters. Implicit bias, I think when I learned about it 5 years ago, it really wasn't a widespread topic. Not that many people had heard of it. When I got to Santa Barbara, it was very much on my mind to think about how do we bring training around the awareness of implicit bias. And I would say today in the media, it is like almost every day that there's an article that speaks to the impact of bias. And so we're fortunate to have within our neighborhood two partners, Jared Schwartz from Just Communities and Dr. Carmel Saad, professor of psychology from Westmont College. And together with these two, we have built just a really great training experience for our staff. I actually co-presented on a panel, I think it was about 2 months ago, about the work of implicit bias in the community. And there were three perspectives: the impact of bias in healthcare, actually no, it's mental health care, the impact of bias in law enforcement, Chief Linhow was co-presenting, and our district. And so I'm really proud that we're one of many agencies that are bringing awareness around bias. And so this is a 2-year summary report, and you've read it, and we're really pleased to have Dr. Saad here to present along with Mr. Schwartz, and they will carry the show here, and then we would welcome questions towards the end. Okay, Dr. Saad.
Thank you so much, Carrie, and thank you all for allowing me to be here today. It's a real honor to do work with the school district. I've worked with lots of organizations in town, including healthcare and law enforcement, and it's just really nice to be able to bring the work that we do to the community to make a difference. So today I'm going to be presenting on the results for the last 2 years. We have some other results that are pretty promising, but we want to wait until data collection on the 3rd year if it gets approved, so that we can just come with a final report at the end. But these are at least some of the findings that show satisfaction with the training up until this point. I'm really fortunate to be working with some of the top names in the field in implicit bias. So I'm working with my colleagues at Westmont, as well as the University of Wisconsin in Madison, UCSB, and at Harvard. So just to give you a brief overview of the findings, I'm going to go over the training evaluations. So at the end of each implicit bias workshop, both in August and October for the past 2 years, we've asked people to rate what they think of the workshop. Was it useful? Was it applicable to the work that you do? Did you take away tools, insights to actually help you with the work that you do? Because we wanted to know, what do people think? And so I'm going to go over these generally, and then I'm going to get into some of the specifics of the workshop. So here are the general training evaluations. So these were rated on a 1 to 5 scale from basically terrible to excellent. And we're really pleased to see that people really gained a lot. So on 3 of the dimensions, how much they learned from the training, their likelihood to recommend it to their peers, and then the overall quality of the training were all between 4 and 5 on the 5-point scale. The only one that was a little bit low was how much they look forward to the training, which I often get. People usually think that this is going to be a very, the diversity trainings might be accusatory or uncomfortable, which I totally understand. But I was just really pleased to be able to exceed their expectations. And then we wanted to get into the specifics. So how did the teachers and the administrators and the counselors actually feel about specific aspects of the training? So these were rated on a scale from 1 to 7. And again, we were really pleased to get just about in between 6 and 7 on all the dimensions, except for the first one, which is conducive facility space, which I think is easily fixable. And I think I have some ideas about why we changed some of the formatting of the workshop, which is, I think, logistical and can be taken care of. But even then, it was 5.16, so not too bad. In terms of how well they think the format worked, about 6 on a 7-point scale. Was the content interesting and relevant to their work? We got really high, 6.47. Did they actually gain insights or tools? And this one was really important to me because there's nothing worse than sitting in on a presentation and not being able to take anything away to your work. So they rated it highly. They thought it was applicable to their work. They thought that Jared and I were effective trainers, and overall it was effectively presented. Now I'd like to look at the data a slightly different way. So they're the same dimensions, general versus specific, but we wanted to break it out into how many people, so what percentage actually rated it as effective. And so in terms of looking forward to training, again, we got a mix. Some people were really looking forward to it, and then a good, half of them were kind of not at all to somewhat looking forward to it. But then everything else, I want to focus your attention on the light blue and the dark blue bars, the light blue and the dark blue pieces of the pie chart, because that represents much to very much. So that's kind of our standard for, did they get something out of it? So it looks like a good percentage, about 78%, rated that they got a lot from the training. And then in terms of likelihood to recommend it to others, we have about, I'm trying to do math really quickly, but it's also a high percentage in the 80s that they were wanting to recommend it to others. Overall quality of training was very high. 94% of it rated the training as either good or excellent. In terms of specific training evaluations, again, we get a mix in terms of physical space, facilities that are conducive to the training. But I guess I'm less worried about that because I think that's an easy fix. In terms of how well the format worked, again, a lot of people rated it highly. We have about 20% that rated it not so highly, and I think this has to do with, again, certain logistics, time of day, which we've been discussing as well for this coming year. Was the content interesting and relevant to their work? Yes. So you have 95% of people either agreeing or strongly agreeing to that question. Did they gain insight, perspective, and tools? Again, yes. So you have 96% of people saying that they agreed or strongly agreed to that question. It was applicable to their work, so about 89% agreed to strongly agreed. About 90-something percent, 93, 94% rated Jared and I as effective trainers. And then this was sort of the big overall question. Did they think that the training was effectively organized and presented? And so we see that 89% agreed to strongly agreed that yes, it was effectively organized and presented. So the bottom line here is that the vast majority of trainees, as well as on average, rated the training as highly valuable, applicable to their work, well presented, effective, and worthy of recommending to their peers, which I think is a really good sign of, them taking away a lot from it. And then just in speaking to participants and the emails that I've gotten has been really encouraging. So I hope that we can continue this work, and thank you so much for your time and attention.
Board members, any comments or questions? Ms. Ford?
Thanks so much. This is kind of a nerd question, but I just wondered why on some of the questions you use the 5-point scale and some a 7-point scale.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So it was because we were taking these questions from previously established articles, and so we wanted to be able to compare people's satisfaction to other workshops that have been done in the United States. So we just wanted to keep the questions the same, the scale the same, everything the same.
Great. And also, did you learn anything? I mean, you have such high marks, but was there anything you took away that you learned so that you wanted to augment or improve, supplement the content?
Yeah. So part of the reason I really like this training is because it gives people 5 concrete strategies which they can practice to mitigate the impact of implicit bias in their work. And so part of what we learned is some of the strategies I think were well understood. People were able to digest them and apply them, and other strategies were not as much. So we're working on how do we bolster those strategies so that they're equally clear and can be equally applicable.
Yeah. Dr. Reed?
Hi, I just wanted to thank you for the great work you're doing. And also just a quick question. After this 3-year period, is there a follow-up that's going to be done with the participants that had taken this originally? I mean, I just wondered, what is your sort of overarching framework?
Yeah, I love that question because I'm all about data and follow-up. So we are. So in fact, this past January, I sent out a 1-year follow-up for the first cohort because I wanted to see, because we actually follow up at several time points. We give them the training and then we follow up with them 2 weeks later to see if they remembered the strategies. We give them several measures to see if they're actually enacting it. We follow up with them 2.5 months later to see long-term change, but I really wanted to see long-term change. Is this actually making a difference? So we followed up 1 year and we're still analyzing that data now. We plan to do the same with the entire group after this 3rd year of data collection.
Ms. Capps?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Saad and Mr. Schwartz, for being here. I had a quick question for you on process. I understand that about 433 people have gone through this training. How many would you say were part of the survey?
Yeah, so the first 433, we were working with a number of about 350 because the rest of those were part of the pilot, which was actually at a 4th time point in addition to this 3rd year. So we didn't include the pilot because it was a little bit different. We were still trying out different techniques. We can look at their data as well. But out of the 350 from the actual non-pilot trainings, we got like 330 responses. So pretty good response rate.
Really good.
And that's because we asked them to take the survey at the end of the training because we know that once people go home, it's over.
I just wanted to add, the pilot session was done primarily with administrators at the district level, with principals, assistant principals, versus the other sessions, which were primarily done with teaching staff, counselors, and others.
Great. And my second question, maybe it's one for the superintendent, but I'd love to know how this will fit into the overall evaluation that we discussed a couple board meetings ago, a project at UCSB, just to make sure that it's as conducive as possible.
Yeah, it's a great question. As the staff prepares to bring back the updated, more expanded evaluation plan, we see these evaluations running in parallel, but not in contact with each other. We really want the UCSB research of Just Communities to be an independent study. But Dr. Saad and Jared in support are very much aware that an evaluation of Just Communities will be done. We know that this evaluation after 3 years is going to be some really solid data that it overlaps, I'd say completely. with the work of Just Communities. I mean, all of their work is about how do we overcome bias and treat people equally. So they're related, but we will not connect the two research projects.
And just to add to that, since it's part of the evaluation, so a lot of the data that we've been analyzing, I haven't been analyzing it because I was the presenter. And so in order to protect from any type of bias or perceived bias, I've been having my colleague at Harvard do all the data analyses because he wasn't a presenter, he wasn't part of the program, so I want it completely objective.
Great. Well, thank you, too. I just want to say this board, over the last couple of years that I've served, a common theme is for us to ask for evaluation. I very much hold that we are spending taxpayer dollars here, and it's important that we then communicate back and make sure that even with the best of intentions that the work is actually producing a positive result. So appreciate that you are proactively coming to us with this evaluation today, and I look forward to the next phase of it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Ms. Munoz?
Excuse me, I appreciate your work on implicit bias, and I wanted to ask if there's any ideas going forward with improve, the format or any suggestions that participants made for future trainings.
Yeah. Well, I think as I'm looking, because I asked them to actually report, do you have any comments or feedback? So I'm looking through their responses now. And one thing is just something logistical. So I think 1 year there wasn't a professional development day that we could hold this on. So we had to split it over 2 nights. And people didn't like that as much as when it was having its own full professional development day. So we're responding to that. Clarification on some of the strategies, more time spent on explaining some of the strategies. So we're working on doing that as well. So we're very tuned to their comments.
Excellent. Thank you.
I would just add 2 other things. One is that we also, as Superintendent Matsuoka said, he was on a panel back in January where we had him and Chief Lunau from Police Department and Inez Munoz from Behavioral Wellness come and talk about the work that they're doing. There were a group of Santa Barbara Unified students who were there as part of that kind of participating and watching the panel. One of the requests that the students made was to bring this training to students as well. So it's not something that came through this evaluation or through the work with the educators, but I thought it was interesting that that the students were asking for this and saw value in them and their peers getting this kind of training as well.
Thank you again for presenting both Saeed and Jared. I just have a question. We're looking at the numbers, and we have fairly high numbers in that, and see where there's areas of improvement. Can you share a story that may have come out of either the first cohort or even the second? Something that it's knowing what happened, personally or as a group. Can you share something like that?
Yeah. Actually, I can think of 2 stories quickly. So one story, the first story is I'm a researcher, and I, oftentimes am doing research with undergraduate students who are required to do it, and so they don't really give a lot of feedback. So when I first started doing this, I did get some questions from participants saying, I'm not sure what this question is asking or why is it worded in such a way. So I realized I needed to do a lot more explanation, both within the survey and verbally of, I'm doing it this way and I can't really change the wording of the questions because these are nationally published surveys, and we just want to be able to compare your responses to responses all over the United States. So one thing is just really being able to explain the value of the research and what, how this is going to help in the long term, even though they may not understand it in the short term. So that was one point of feedback. The other one is just kind of a fun story, and I've asked this person if I could share this story, but I am not going to mention her name. But when I showed up to one of the trainings, I think they had just advertised it as Dr. Saad. And so she said, "Oh, I thought you were a man." Because I think, she associated professor with man. And so she said, "I guess I'm in the right place." And I thought that was the perfect response, because the idea of the whole training is not to not make mistakes. We all make mistakes all the time, but to raise awareness and then to be willing to work on it so that it doesn't impact your interactions with others. So I just thought it was like perfect.
Thank you for sharing. Any additional comments or questions, board members? Dr. Matsuoka. Doctor, you're going to be a doctor yet. Mr. Matsuoka.
I should get an honorary doctorate with all that. So at the end of the board report, we did want to check in with you about the board's desires about continuing this training. I sense a lot of support. So what we will do is queue up contracts from the two organizations. We might get them on the next board meeting. We might want to take into May because, Ms. Carey, we'll have to think about how to bring a student experience. We actually haven't thought through the logistics of that. I love the idea. I even wonder if you have a research angle to think about. I bet she does, but what a great opportunity to train, some of our older high school students. But wow, that is really needed on our high school campuses. So do some thinking, and then we'll call a meeting to think about how to weave in a student experience. The contract amounts are actually decreasing each year because, this is a pretty well-oiled machine, but if we add a student piece, the cost will go up some, okay? So hearing board support through your nonverbal body language, we will work on those contracts, okay? All right, thank you, you two.
Thank you. Thank you. That moves us to item G, nothing to return from consent items. I think we're quiet because we're like, is this really true? And it's April Fool's Monday, so yeah. So coming events, any board members of coming events that we want to share? Okay. Future agenda items. I wanted to say on this is that I did get a list up that, thank you, Dr. Reed, so I'll be getting that out to the board members so we can kind of see where we are, and then we can add that in a process of having it, how we notate it on our agenda as well. Ms. Capps?
Yes, I would like to add another one to that list.
Okay.
I would like to bring back to the board for my colleagues to determine whether or not we should direct the staff to come up with a plan for a new position. As you all know here, I believe that our schools can be and should be a model of sustainability and energy efficiency. It's fiscally smart, it's smart for the planet, and it teaches our students good lessons. And many school districts have positions. I'm not going to dictate how it's called or what it's, but energy manager or sustainability director. And so I'd like for us to explore it. I've started some exploration. I can certainly provide the research I've done. Oxnard has 2 of those positions. Monterey, they saved millions of dollars. So I would like my board members to discuss and take a vote on whether or not the staff can come up with a proposal.
On our next agenda, you're looking for that as a next agenda item in the future?
Whenever it's appropriate.
Yeah, because it's not noted for this agenda. So,
right.
Yeah. Okay, so noted. All right. Ooh, I just can't even explain 7:20. So our next meeting is Tuesday, April 16th, a special board meeting where we'll be reviewing board policies. And then following that will be our Tuesday, April 23rd, 2019 regular school board meeting. Can you believe it? Y'all need to shout amen, hallelujah. Yes. Okay. Motion to adjourn. So moved. So noted.